My name is Eliza. I never thought I'd see the day when I questioned whether my own family was safe for my child. But that day came, and it came hard. My son Liam had just turned 7, bright, curious, a little clumsy like most boys his age. We'd been invited to my sister Rachel's house for what she called a family Sunday. That meant tension disguised as togetherness. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video? Rachel was always controlled, polished, perfect, always dressed like she was auditioning to be a senator's wife, and my mother, her loyal cheerleader, acted like Rachel's word was divine scripture. As for me, I was the one who made messy choices. I didn't marry rich. I worked 2 jobs. I wasn't graceful enough, obedient enough, or rich enough, but I was a good mother. I knew that much. That Sunday, the house smelled like lemon cleaner and disdain. We walked in and Rachel greeted us with a thin smile. "Shoes off, please. I just had the floors waxed." I took off my heels. Liam, barefoot, held his little sketch pad close. He loved drawing dinosaurs. We were all gathered in her pristine white living room when it happened. Rachel served lemonade in delicate glasses and handed one to Liam. He reached with both hands, careful, but his foot slid on the tile and the glass tumbled from his fingers. It shattered, and the lemonade splattered across Rachel's glossy floor. The room froze. Liam's eyes widened in horror. He immediately muttered, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" Rachel stood, silent. Then she looked at me, and her smile was so tight it shook. "Control your child." I stepped forward, but before I could speak, she turned to Liam. "Do you know what we do in this house when someone disrespects hard work?" she asked. I stared, confused. "Rachel, it was an accident." She ignored me. She grabbed a paper towel, dropped it on the floor, then looked directly at my son. "Clean it. With your tongue." I thought she was joking. I actually laughed a dry, shocked bark of a sound. "What?" Rachel's voice sharpened like ice. "He disrespected this house. He disrespected me." Liam was frozen in place, trembling. "Absolutely not," I said, stepping between them. "He's a child." Then came my mother's voice from the couch. "Eliza, don't interfere. Rachel's teaching him accountability. It's just respect." My heart stopped. "Respect?" I choked out. "She's not wrong," my mother said, sipping her tea. "If you were stricter, he wouldn't be so careless." I bent down to Liam, scooped him into my arms. His face was pale. He was shaking. "We're leaving," I said. Rachel's voice followed me as I walked to the door. "Run away, as always. No wonder you're still alone." I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was holding back tears so thick I could barely see the doorknob. That night, Liam wouldn't speak. He just kept drawing. That night's sketch was a monster with my sister's hair. The next morning, I called my mother. I asked her flat out if she thought it was okay to make a child lick the floor. Her answer? "Eliza, you overreacted. You always do. Maybe if you learned some humility like Rachel, you'd be better off." I hung up. Then I cried in the bathroom for over an hour while Liam built a fort in the living room. I realized something in that moment. My family had no idea who I really was, but they were about to find out. And this time I wouldn't raise my voice. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't plead. I'd plan. Silently, strategically. Because when you've been dismissed, humiliated, and told that your child deserves punishment for an accident, you don't just walk away. You rise, and you watch them fall without even raising your hand. 3 weeks. That's how long I went without speaking to my mother or my sister. 3 weeks of silence, not a single call, not a single reply. I wasn't ignoring them, I was watching. Quietly, closely. While they thought I was licking my wounds, I was learning their patterns. Rachel, as it turned out, had just started her little etiquette coaching business, something she bragged about endlessly on Instagram. "Refining families one household at a time," her tagline read. I watched her videos, fake smiles, performative grace, and 1,000 rules about how to pour tea or address elders. It was a circus act, and her followers believed every bit of it. But here's what they didn't know. She had no license, no certification, no legal paperwork to operate as a consultant. And as for my mother, she had been using Rachel's business to launder the money from an old family trust she quietly took control of after my father passed a trust that was supposed to be for both daughters. I discovered this while quietly reviewing the dusty folder of legal papers I'd stashed years ago. Turns out my mother had transferred everything to Rachel's name the year I had Liam. My stomach turned. The humiliation wasn't the beginning. It was just the final knife. They'd planned to cut me out long ago. But I wasn't the same Eliza anymore. They thought being a single mother made me weak, but motherhood had taught me endurance, strategy, quiet rage, and now I'd put it all to use. I took a job, one that no one knew about. A client of mine from my second job was a private estate manager. He ran a luxury housekeeping staffing firm that handled clients from embassies, five-star hotels, and even political families. He offered me a training position when he learned I'd once worked for a senator's family before Liam was born. I accepted. For 6 weeks, I worked in silence, learned every detail of elite household operations, staffing, schedules, security, policy. Then, I started fielding calls from clients directly. That's when I saw a familiar name. The Beaumont Gala, hosted by Rachel L. Whitmore. She had booked elite waitstaff for a high society event. And guess who now had access to their profiles? I switched 2 profiles. One of the girls I swapped in was my best friend, Naomi, trained, discreet, and sharp as a whip. The other was a real etiquette coach whose license Rachel had stolen years ago to copy her course material. I found her on LinkedIn. She was bitter, and she was eager. I paid both of them myself. The night of the Beaumont Gala, Rachel stood at the center of a crowd of influencers, judges, minor celebrities, and socialites. She wore a cream-colored gown and gave a long, flowery speech about integrity in the home. 10 minutes later, Naomi served her a glass of wine and deliberately spilled it across her dress. Rachel gasped. Gasps echoed. Phones came out. But it didn't stop there. The real etiquette coach stepped forward and asked loudly, "Isn't it interesting how someone preaches about integrity when they stole every line of their business from my copyrighted manual?" Someone gasped. Someone else whispered, "Wait, isn't she unlicensed?" Then Naomi accidentally dropped the catering binder in the middle of the floor. Inside were printouts I had collected Rachel's emails, her fraudulent certifications, and bank records from my mother's trust laundering. It was a mess. Rachel tried to scream. My mother rushed in, hissing at me on the sidelines. "You little snake!" I just looked at her and said calmly, "It's just respect." She went pale. For the first time in my life, she had nothing to say. Later that week, the board of Rachel's brand dropped her. The real etiquette coach filed a legal case. My mother lost access to the trust, and not a single person knew I was behind it. I didn't gloat. I didn't make a video. I didn't post about it. Instead, I enrolled Liam in a quiet creative art school. I started a small coaching circle for mothers like me, women who had been called too emotional, too much, too soft. We met weekly, supported each other, and taught our kids that respect is earned, not enforced through shame. I never once forced Rachel or my mother to apologize. I didn't need to. They watched their reputation burn slowly, silently, and knew exactly who had lit the match. It was months before I saw my mother or sister again. Rachel had vanished from the public scene after the gala scandal. Her business was dissolved. The real etiquette coach pursued her for damages, and the press had already labeled her a social fraud. My mother retreated too, hiding behind closed blinds and whispered excuses in the community she once ruled with a saccharine smile. But I hadn't forgotten. And I hadn't forgiven. Then came Liam's school art exhibit. He had been working on a sculpture for weeks. I never asked what it was. I wanted to be surprised. On the day of the show, the small auditorium was packed with proud parents, teachers, and bright-eyed children. I stood in the back, quiet, letting him take his moment. When it was Liam's turn, he walked up nervously, cleared his throat, and removed the cloth from his piece. It was a bowl, but not just any bowl. It was cracked with golden veins running through it. He called it forgiven, but not forgotten. "I dropped this bowl by accident," Liam explained, voice soft but steady. And my teacher told me about kintsugi, a way to fix broken things by filling them with gold, so the cracks become part of the story, not a flaw. The room was silent. He continued, "My mom always told me that people try to make you feel small when they're scared of your light. But she said, we don't get revenge by becoming them. We get even by remembering who we are." I cried, quietly, not just for what he said, but for how far he had come, how far I had come. When the exhibit ended, I found a quiet spot outside with Liam, who sat on the steps beside me, swinging his legs. That's when a car pulled up. My mother and Rachel stepped out dressed plainly, no makeup, no entourage. My mother held something in her hands, an envelope. She approached me like a stranger walking toward a cliff. "Eliza," she said, eyes tight. "We wanted to apologize." Rachel looked down, fidgeting with her bracelet. For once, she had no retort, no clever insult. I took the envelope and opened it slowly. Inside was a letter handwritten. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't full of deep insight, but it said 3 words I had waited my whole life to hear. We were wrong. They asked if there was any way to move forward, and I told them, there is, but it starts with your hands, not your words. The next week, they came to the community library I volunteered at, not for show, but to work. My mother dusted books. Rachel helped fix shelves. No cameras, no makeup, no excuses. I didn't post about it. I didn't make it part of my image. But I watched closely, quietly. Liam saw too, and one evening, as we made hot chocolate together, he looked up at me and said, "Mom, I think you're golden glue." I smiled. Because that's what revenge looked like to me now, not shouting in their faces or throwing them out of houses. It was building something stronger in the cracks they left behind and making them clean it, one humble gesture at a time. They made my son lick the floor once. Now they walk it quietly, carefully under my roof, on my terms. And I didn't even have to raise my voice. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.